What's holding you back? Holding you back from touching the sky? What's holding you back? You gotta fly like an eagle and go high. What's holding you back? Holding you back from touching the sky? Oh, holding you back. You finally gotta reach for the sky. I was born to succeed, not to be a spoken the real. Told myself there's more to this than just waking up when I feel. So I made a commitment to turn my earnings up. Couldn't see myself as an employee that still couldn't. Looked in the mirror, saw a spark in my eye. Knew I had to hustle and stop living a lie. I packed my dreams in a suitcase, took the first train. I'm headed for the horizon when success is no doubt.
Greetings and welcome to a very special edition of What's Holding You Back. My name is Rob McCray from the Business Building Network. And yes, this is not our customary day for us to be coming before you, but we didn't have the opportunity to be with you this past Wednesday, our regular scheduled program, which is at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. So I had to come before you this evening, this Friday, before the week closes out with all of the things that are going on over in Iran with the war, the conflict over there. So I just had to come on and share some information with you about what is actually going on, what it looks like is going to be happening in the next, maybe today or the next few days, and what we can do to prepare ourselves for what is to come in the very near future. So I could not let this day pass me by without sharing some of this information with you. So the title of our broadcast for today is Will the U.S. deploy troops into Iran? And the very simple answer to that question is it looks like it's definitely going to happen if it has not already started already. And yes, I am very displeased to say that, but that looks to be what the situation is. And from all reports and what we've been seeing, the troops are on their way, and they will be going into either the outside island of Iran or the actual mainland of Iran itself. But we're going to talk about that as we go through the broadcast this evening. So yes, it is very unfortunate to see that the United States is putting our troops through this. It is something that they do not deserve. Definitely do not deserve to be put in a position to risk their lives for something that we really don't have any involvement with. We are not being impacted or affected by what is going on over there, but the powers that are in place want to appease the people in Israel, or I should say, the leadership in Israel. And this is why the United States is involved in this current conflict. And now they're putting our soldiers in harm's way for that reason. So we're just going to be going over what's actually going on, what's going to be happening in the very near future, and what we can do to put ourselves in the best possible place as these events start to unfold. So let's do a brief recap on what has transpired so far. All right, so the first attack that was placed on Iran took place in June 13th of 2025, and that was led by Israel and America as they bombed the nuclear facilities and killed several top military officials, politicians, and top scientists within the country of Iran. And this was known as the 12-Day War, which ended on June the 24th of 2025. And the only reason why that conflict ended because Israel asked President Trump to ask Iran for a ceasefire. Why? Because Israel was getting their butts kicked by Iran. So they asked for the ceasefire. And fortunately, Iran granted the ceasefire and the conflict stopped at that point in time. And then we move forward to February the 28th of this year, 2026, when the US and Israel regrouped, they licked their wounds, and they attacked Iran again. This time they killed their supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And this caused major regional instability, not just in Iran, but throughout the entire Persian Gulf. And this led to many of the uh, Gulf Coast countries becoming involved in this conflict. Why? Because they had military bases, U.S. military bases on their land and in their region. And these bases were used to orchestrate this war against Iran, the second time around. So, in retaliation for those Gulf Coast countries using their land as places for the bases to be used against Iran, Iran retaliated against these countries. And these countries are the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman. So these are all of the Gulf Coast countries that had bases within their country. And that's why Iran retaliated against these countries, because they were in support of the United States attacking Iran. So they had blood on their hands. And this is why Iran has been retaliating against them ever since that point of the second starting of this conflict. So this brings us to our current situation now. All right. So this conflict, this war, whatever you want to call it, has been going on for almost a month now. Tomorrow is going to mark the 30th day of this conflict going on, which will actually be a month. It started on February the 28th. So now Iran has been very strategic in what they're doing. They have a plan in place. The United States and Israel thought that once they assassinated the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, they thought that Iran would fold and the rest of the country would rise up and take over. But that didn't happen. It was exactly the opposite that happened. The country came together and they united as one to come against the people that were trying to oppress them and take over ownership of their land, which is the United States and Israel. So they all united together to fight against the oppressors. But also, so the supreme leader of Iran is the supreme leader of the entire Persian Gulf region. So the other countries there in the Persian Gulf, they also solidified, unified, and came together as one, because now you've made it a holy war, a global war, where you're pitting Muslims against the foreign oppressors. And this is where, this conflict is really taking a turn, and it's really leading to an all-out chaos going on throughout the region. So we're in a bad place right now, and things are just getting worse and worse by the minute. So we really have to pay attention to what's going on and try to figure out what is the best method to try to get out of this with the least amount of damage being done. Let me just check the comments. I see a couple of people coming in. Okay, so deliverance, hope. Many of us want a peaceful resolution in the Middle East to prevent potential world famine. Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is what's going to happen. We're going to be faced with this as this conflict continues to move forward. So yes, thank you so much for that message there. So we're going to speak about that in just a little bit. Just want to go over some of the things and get everybody else up to speed so they know exactly what we're talking about and what's going on in this conflict right now. All right. So, what was Iran Iran's major play? What was their course of action after their supreme leader and many other facilities were taken out within their country? So Iran is very smart. They're very strategic and they're very patient. They're not jumping the gun. They're sitting back, and if they were a boxer, they would be playing counterpunching. So they would let the U.S. and Israel take the first shot, and then they would come back and counter. And every time they counter, it just sends the U.S. and Israel for a loop, and they don't know how to respond or how to react to it because now the bully is getting punched back in their face, and they don't know how to deal with it. So Iran closed the Straits of Hormuz, and this has prevented any cargo ships from coming into that region. And what this has done is, of course, all of these Persian Gulf countries are great exporters of oil and gas, fuel. So now that the straits are closed, no cargo ships can come in or nor go out, meaning no oil is transferred in or out of the region. And since that region produces 20% of the oil throughout the world, it is a big supply problem throughout the rest of the globe. And now many countries are starting to feel that and they're complaining because they're not going to have any fuel, they're not going to have any oil, any gas, and it's just going to cause major problems in the very near future as some countries are already running out of their fuel supplies already. So this was one of the great strategic measures in which Iran put in place. And this is really hurting not just the US and Israel, but everywhere else around the globe. So now these countries are coming back and they're telling the United States and Israel, you need to stop this conflict because you're doing harm to the world. And you're going to be looking at a global recession very soon if we're not careful. So as we continue to see the price of oil increase, and we're going to be seeing an increase of our amount that we have to pay at the gas pump. We're already seeing it. Prices are up over $1 in most places when we go to fill up our cars and our trucks. And same thing with fuel for aircraft. So of course we're going to see a rise in aircraft flights. Also, another thing that we need to be leery of is out of that region, out of the Persian Gulf region, also comes a great percentage of fertilizer. Yes, the fertilizer that we use for our crops. So what does that mean? So as our comment came in earlier talking about famine, this is going to be a great problem. So now this is the planting season as we go into the spring months here, especially in the northern hemisphere where it's still a little cool out. But as we go into the summer months and the major point of where all of the crops are really going to start to bear, with there being a very short supply of fertilizer to help to nourish those crops and help these foods to grow, then we're going to have a shortage of food. And then we're really going to see an uprising all across the world as people will not have food to feed themselves with and their families. So this is so much bigger than the United States and Israel wanting to occupy and take over another country. It has global ramifications to each and every one of us in some way and somehow. And this is just going to create great problems as we continue to watch this conflict and this war progress. All right. So, Trump, President Trump, he knows he made a mistake. He will never admit to it, but he knows. He's looking for a way out. But the only problem is Israel's not going to let him out. They want to continue the war. They wanted to keep it going on until they can take over the country of Iran, because Israel knows that Iran is the only country standing in their way from taking over complete control of the region. So as long as Israel is standing, Israel cannot have their way over the entire region as they've been trying to do. So this is the dilemma here. So President Trump has already asked Iran for two ceasefires, but Iran said no this time. No. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So no, they're not going to allow uh, a ceasefire again. They've even said they're not even going to negotiate with them anymore. They just want to wait until the U.S. meets their demands. And once the U.S. does that, then and only then will they open the doors to having some negotiations. And the United States did remove some of the sanctions that they had on Iran, which is good. So that's a starting point. That's a step in the right direction, that there can be some type of resolution. But it's going to take a whole lot more. Um, and it's going to take the U.S. to really make it known to Israel that they have to adhere to what the United States says and not have it the other way around. Because as it stands right now, it's like Israel is the one in control, telling the U.S. what to do. And that's just how it looks. You know, some people might try and say different, but the U.S. is acting on the behalf of Israel, and Israel is dictating what it is that needs to be done. And as you can see, as we're going to be talking about these troops going onto the ground over there in Iran, you don't see any Israeli troops going over there. It's just U.S. troops. Why is that? The U.S. is not fighting this fight for any problems that we necessarily have with Iran, even though they tried to say that it was because they didn't want them to have any nuclear bombs or nuclear abilities. But the Ayatollah already said and stated for the last 10 to 20 years, they do not want any nuclear bombs because their religion does not believe in the um, um, dissolution of humans in that manner. They do not believe in that, and they passed the fatwa, which says they will not have nuclear capabilities to create a bomb. They just use it for municipal abilities. So that was just one of the things that was put out there by Israel and the United States to give them a reason to invade and attack Iran. But that is not the truth as to why this is really taking place. So the US is either going to have to step away and say, Israel, you're going to have to continue to fight this on your own, or they're going to have to make Israel stop, continue on with the conflict. But either way, the US really needs to come out of this because the situation is just getting worse and worse. And like I said earlier, um, as they attempt to deploy those troops over there, it's going to be like a suicide mission trying to get those troops onto that island, or if they go into the mainland of Iran. Either way, it's going to be a very, very bad situation for our troops. And like I said, they don't deserve that. Right? All right. So we're talking about some of the things that the U.S. is trying to do in this conflict. So I'm just going to pull up a map on the screen, and I want to show you where they're talking about deploying the troops and where they're trying to bring them on land in Iran and the island right outside of Iran. All right, so, okay, let me just make this a little larger. Okay. All right, so here you see this is Iran at the top of your screen, and in the blue, the light blue, that is the waterway, the Straits of Hormuz is there on your right. And as you can see in red, it is a 21 to 35-mile distance between Oman and the actual island of Iran. So that waterway there is what is considered the Straits of Hormuz. All right, so now the United States wants to deploy troops to this region. But the only problem is, and it's a big problem, they cannot bring their ships into this waterway because Iran will sink their boats. They were going to hit them with missiles and sink them to the bottom of the ocean. That's why the Straits of Hormuz is closed. Iran does not want any vessels coming through this waterway. And if they do, they will be struck down. So in order for the United States to drop off their Marines, they would most likely want to use a boat to get as close to the shoreline as they can and drop off the Marines. But like I just stated, Iran will sink those boats, those ships, as they get too close. So that option is taken off the door. So the only other way for the U.S. to have their troops land is going to have to be to parachute them in. So now, if they're going to go into the mainland of Iran, they can just, drop the troops, and they'll meet in a selected location and gather up and try to regroup and regather from there. So let me just pull up another slide as I want to show you the other island right off the coast of Iran. And this is called Karg Island. And in this island here, It's right off the coast of Iran, like 15 miles from Iran. This island is the major hub for Iran, where they transport 90% of their oil out of this island here, this region. So that's why the United States wants to take over this particular island. And President Trump had threatened that he would destroy that fuel line, the oil line that they have here on this island. And then Iran's response was, if you do that, we're going to destroy all of the oil reservoirs in all of the Persian Gulf countries. As we mentioned earlier, that would be Kuwait, Oman, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Qatar. So if the US or Israel does anything to the Iran's oil reserves there on Card Island, then Iran will destroy all of those oil reserves in those Persian Gulf countries. And if Iran does that, then there is no more oil for anyone coming out of this region. So it wouldn't matter if the Straits of Hormuz are opened up after this takes place. So again, Iran made a very strategic counter move. You bomb us, we're going to destroy the whole region. So what does the US do? Well, we're going to soon find out. Because as we speak, they are deploying the troops over there, either on one of these islands. As you can see, there are quite a few islands, but I believe the main focal point will be this island of Kar here, which we see, and this is all the way up in the straits, past the straits into the Persian Gulf. So it's going to be, and it's a very small island as well. So if they do parachute the troops onto this island, they're saying the island is just flat land. So the troops are going to have no kind of cover. And Iran's missile defenses are very pinpoint accurate and very, very effective. So they can just destroy our forces right there on the island. That's why I said it's going to look like a suicide mission. And I would hate to see that for our soldiers. They do not deserve this. So, I really don't understand why the United States is still pursuing this. The war is already lost. They just have to accept that. Trump can put it out there any way he wants. He can say he met his objectives and just say claim victory and just come out. That would be the best thing that he can do. Because in the beginning, his objective was stated as regime change, which means take out the leader. That was done. And to prevent them from being able to create nuclear ammunition. That was done with the first go round, so they say. So if those were your two main objectives, why are you still fighting with these people? Because you want something more. You want to take over the land, but it's not going to happen. So you have to cut bait and just get up out of there before you make the situation even worse than it already is. But President Trump, he's not going to admit defeat. So he's going to continue to double down and saying that, they're winning the war. The troops are on the ground doing a wonderful job, and they're taking over the territory. And it's going to be over in just a matter of a couple of days or weeks. But I truly do not believe that will be the outcome. I hope I'm wrong. I truly hope I am, but I just do not see it. You have to understand, if these troops are going to be parachuted in, there's really no other way for them to get over there. Um, how are they going to get resupplied? How are they going to get more ammunition? How are they going to get bigger artillery, tanks, and other things of that nature? How are they going to get food? Like I said, this is like a suicide mission. I really don't see it. I don't see a way in which they can really have a good outcome from this. All right. So that's what we're looking at when it comes to the troops landing in Iran or the island right next to it. Um, so Kharg Island is, like I said, the major hub for their oil supply. Um, if they were going into the mainland of Iran, which there have been talks of them doing that as well, but you have to understand that Iran has an army, a military of over a million troops. And you're going to send in 10,000 troops to do what? Against a million? How does that math work? So, like I said, I mean, this is, wow. It's like they setting them up for a suicide mission. And to make it even worse, they're known as to when they're sending the troops over and where. Who does that? If you are a war tactician, if you are a strategist, and you're trying to defeat an enemy, all of that information needs to be silenced. There should be no leaks. The enemy should have no idea of where you're coming, when you're coming, and how you're going to get there. But it's already out there. So it's like when they come onto the land, they're sitting ducks. How are they going to win? It's like you're doing everything within your power to make sure that the military is demolished. Wow. Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Yeah, nephew says, and how are they going to get out? Oh, wow. Yeah, great point. How are they going to get out? You can't parachute out. You can't parachute out. Yeah, I mean, it's surrender and be captured or die. That's the only way I can see it. Because you sure not going to get no boat up in there, no ship to come pick them up. You can't land a plane over there or a helicopter. Yeah, how are you going to get them out? Oh my God. This is really a suicide mission. All right, so I don't really want to talk about that. That's really depressing, discouraging. But yeah, that's wow. I feel so sorry for them troops going in there. All right. All right. So now in this slide here, we're going to talk about now the ramifications of the actions that what the United States and Israel has done, and how this is going to um, really expedite the demise of the United States and Israel. Um, the United States is already a declining empire, whether you know it or not. The US will never admit it, but it's been ongoing for the better part of 10 years now. but they're just expediting things to make it happen so much quicker now by the very foolish decisions in which they're making. So now in the Persian Gulf, with all of these Gulf Coast countries that supply oil, right? Their way of selling their oil is through a petro system that is backed by the US dollar. Meaning, in order for you to purchase oil from any of these Gulf Coast countries, you will have to use the petro system, the US dollar. So the money has to be used in that manner, right? And that's why the US dollar is considered the global currency. But boom, here we go again. Iran made a monster move. So what they said is no longer will the petrol system be used when you're buying oil from this region. Now, if you want to buy oil, when we do decide to open up the Straits of Hormuz, you will only be able to buy that oil by using the Chinese currency, the yen. Check, check. I'm playing chess now. So, yeah, they just put the US in check right there. So, no longer will the United States be able to recoup any money from the transactions of oil from the Persian Gulf countries. Mm. So you're eliminated from that. You have no money coming back from that now. Now, some of that money is going to go to the Chinese. And these are your major enemies now, you know, and that's a lot of why we're seeing this conflict going on now. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. We're not going to get into that. So they said, yeah, we're only going to accept the Chinese currency if you want to purchase oil from any of these Gulf Coast countries. All right. So here's the thing now. All right. So now that Iran has done that, that's really going to expedite the collapse of the US dollar. And we did a program about that a couple of weeks ago here on the What's Holding You Back YouTube channel. So if you missed that, please go back and watch that. We went more in depth about the U.S. dollar and what's happening with it, and if it does collapse, what do we need to do? So please do yourself a favor and go back and watch that video if you have not seen it already. All right, so now if well, it's not if the Iran has already put this in place. So now the U.S. dollar is in big trouble, and we already have such great debt that we are unable to repay, and it continues to mount more and more, and even more now with this war. And so the dollar is going to be on the brink of collapsing. And when that does happen, mind you, I did not say if it happens. I said when that does happen, wow. Um, I don't know. I mean, you're talking about a total market collapse. Um, we saw some banks crash a couple of years ago. Just imagine all of the banks crashing and all of the money that you have in your bank account just vanishing. That's what we're going to be looking at. And it's just going to be, wow. a very, very dire situation because one or two persons' greed, the love of money, the love of money is the root of all evil. And it is just, these people having ill intent towards others and wanting to enrich and empower themselves at the destruction of others. That has really put us in this position that we're looking at now, and it's going to be very, very rough. So, I just want to encourage each and every one of you to pay attention to what's going on. You have to really watch this, understand what's happening. And as you see the price of oil or gas continue to increase, as you see the price of other goods that you go to purchase, your food, supplies, everything else. I mean, everything's going to be impacted by an increase of fuel because no matter what it is that you want to go to the store and purchase, it has to get to that store by a certain means, whether that's by a truck or by a plane. Those increases, I mean, those fuel prices have increased. So, of course, the actual price that you're going to pay to receive those goods is also going to increase. So, everything is impacted. And then when the inflation becomes so great that you're not able to afford any of these things, because the one thing that's not going to be inflated is what? Our income, our pay, our wages. So, where does that leave us? It's really a sad state. And it's not looking promising. It's really not. It really is not. I just hope and pray that we can come out of this. I mean, there definitely is a way out, but somebody has to knock some sense into these supposed leaders that we have in place now because they're not doing right by the people. And that's who they're supposed to be interacting for, not doing it for themselves, their own benefit. That's what they're doing. They're doing it to increase their own wealth and well being, not for the people in which they represent. So, yeah, we really have to put things in order, have a plan in place. As we've talked about previously, create your own gardens. Um, you have to have some type of food source in place for these dry seasons that we're going to go into. As someone spoke about earlier about the famine, these are real things. I mean, we are living through a monumental time in which the world is forever changing. And this will go down in history as that point in time when the world really changed. We're living through it. So we have to prepare ourselves for what is to come and make sure that we're in the best position to get over these trying times because there are going to be some trying times. But, as long as we are stay rooted and grounded in God and we continue to look out for one another, be of good character, good integrity, and always be an honorable person in anything in which you do, and you will get your good deeds coming back to you. So yes. Let me just go through some of the comments. Been rambling on for a little bit. Okay, so let me just go through this. Okay. Yes. Okay. LNG, natural gas. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's another thing that we're gonna lose and run short of. Persians. Yes. Iran is the Persians. Yep. No, they are very intelligent people, and that's what America didn't understand, or did not respect. They did not respect their intellect, and now they're paying for it. Okay. All right. Excellent. Yes. Evangelist Pat, blessings, my dear. How are you? Yes, Lord, protect us. Keep us, yes, from these wicked and tormental ways. Yes. Sister Nicola, God bless you. Good to see you. Yes, sis, it is truly crazy. Yeah. hmm Yeah. Yeah, Antonio. Yeah, that was good. How are they going to get out? That's a very good question. That is a very good question. Who's signing this off? Yeah, where is Congress? Yes. Yeah. You know, and that's the thing. They know, Congress knows that this is a terrible plan, a terrible idea. They know that what he's doing is wrong, but they're not stepping up. They're not saying anything. They have those private meetings amongst one another, but when it comes to speaking up for the people and doing what is right, they're silent. Nobody wants to stand up. They don't want to take the fall. They don't want to lose their position because they know President Trump is going to have them primaried when election time comes up. But guess what? I got news for you. Do you think the American people are going to put you back in office after this anyway? So you might as well stand up and speak. But I guess they just don't see it that way. hmm Yes, they definitely need humility. They need a humbling of themselves. So, yes, family, yes, I just wanted to share that with you before this ground invasion really kicks off. Uh, they are saying that most likely, if not tonight, then sometime tomorrow, then we should hear about some troops being on the ground in different locations. Some of that will be top secret, so they will not, like special forces. They will not share that information, which is good. They should not have been sharing any information when it comes to any troops being involved as to a location where they're should be landing. That information should have never came out. You're just setting those troops up. Yeah, so yeah, we just have to keep them in prayer. It's not their fault. They're just doing their job. Yeah. So, gonna close it out for this evening. But yeah, I just wanted to share that information with you. I hope you got some good resources from it. And like I said, stay awake, stay aware of what's going on. take your necessary measures to protect yourself, your family. Put some things in place so that you will always have some type of food supply. Get some canned goods stored up, your water supply stored up, because there will come a time and season where there will be a shortage. So yeah, we just have to keep those things in our mind, and just make sure we're doing all of the preventative measures that we can. All right. All right, family. So thank you so much for jumping on. I know it was short notice, but had to get that information out there to you before this Friday passed us by. So once again, my name is Rob McCray from the Business Building Network. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel as of yet, please go ahead and do so. And we look forward to seeing you each and every Wednesday. Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time is our normal time to go live. But like I said earlier, because I didn't have the opportunity to go live this past Wednesday, I had to come on today and share this information with you. But normally we go live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.
What's holding you back from touching the sky? What's holding you back? You gotta fly like an eagle and go high. What's holding you back from touching the sky? Oh, holding you back, you finally gotta reach for the sky. I was born to succeed, not to be a spoke in the wheel. Told myself there's more to this than just waking up when I feel. So I made a commitment to turn my earnings up. Couldn't see myself as an employee that still couldn't. Looked in the mirror, saw a spark in my eye. Knew I had to hustle and stop living a lie. I packed my dreams in a suitcase, took the first train out, headed for the horizon with success is no doubt.